somewhere around 1992 or 93 when I saw it, a poster in our favorite rental store. It was a game tournament, and it was only a few weeks away. Now that was all my brother and I needed to hear. We didn't have a Super NES at the time, so the world still revolved around the NES. Maybe the movie Wizard was still fresh in our minds because we had this crazy notion that in the tournament it would be kind of based on Super Mario Brothers, the original one. I remember training to maximize our score on every level. We would run down the clock just smashing every single brick. It sounds ridiculous now, but we were committed. And I remember thinking, this feels a little off, but we gotta win that tournament. Well, the day finally arrived, and we were heading out on a family vacation, so my parents were hoping we could kind of wrap things up quickly in the morning. Well, we got to the store, found a single TV set up with a few chairs. There weren't many participants, maybe fewer than 10, but a small crowd had gathered. To our surprise, the game wasn't Mario at all, it was Duck Hunt. Specifically, the tournament was based on how long you could last with the clay pigeon mode. I gave it my best shot, and I was never a pro, though I was great at using the second controller to kind of mess with the ducks while no one was looking. I used to drive people nuts with that one. But I managed to make it through with a few rounds, and I landed second place. But when it was my brother's turn, he just kind of kept going and going and going, obliterating my score, and stayed on the stool for over an hour. Eventually they just called it and named him the winner. I don't recall exactly what my brother won, but I clearly remember picking up my own prize, a rental copy of HydLide. Just look at that box art, the dragon and the warrior. I was certain to have a grand adventure, just kind of like Dragon Warrior. But because of our vacation, I had to wait a week before I could even fire it up. And when I did, the experience was less than grand. Since it was a rental, though I owned it, there was no manual. And I found myself just lost and confused. The battle system, well, I wasn't sure there was one. And I didn't last long, that's all I know. The details are a bit fuzzy afterwards. But it wasn't long before my brother did a permatrade with one of his friends. And I ended up with the game Tiger Heli in exchange. I suppose that's an improvement. Still, HydLide never really left me. I wondered if there was something more to it. I used to hunt for information like in old issues of Nintendo Power, and years later I watched James roleplay into it. But now it's finally my turn. I'm picking up the controller to see if I can finally close the loop, or bury this game once and for all and just be done with it. Well, time for a blind run. Wish me luck. Okay, that was rough, but I tried to get a handle on the combat. And man, fighting is not working out in my favor. I figured out that you can kind of heal by standing there mostly, but then I would lose health at random. No enemies, no explanation, I was just dying. The map's small, at least the areas I could reach. I managed to dodge enough enemies to grab across. I think maybe helps with the vampire in the castle. Nope. It did absolutely nothing. And I don't even get me started on the bats. They just respawn the second you kill them. They just come right back. Well, it's all coming back to me now. I could totally get that familiar sense of being kind of lost and having no clue what to do, and then just dying over and over again. And when you die, you completely reset, which is brutal. At least there's a password system, and oddly enough, there's a built-in save state. So I'm definitely leaning on save states in this game, which at the time is 100% game approved. So, gotta use them. If I want to have any chance of really finishing this, I need to find a guide and a clear set of goals. I've been putting off HydLide for far too long, so I'm gonna have to dig in deep, find that gamer focus, and see this through. I gotta start jamming some buttons too. It's time for some research. Well, some interesting research. This started as a PC game before it was made its way to the NES. Strangely, I saw a port on the Nintendo Switch in 2023 that's much closer to the original PC 8801 version. Why? Who knows? Maybe there's a masochist out there who truly loves this thing. It definitely did make waves in the US, and James Rolfe definitely confirmed why that was the case. And speaking of the kind of US release, it was FCI. I'm starting to think FCI is my personal nemesis. You've got James and LGN. Well, I've got me and FCI. And I already know there's plenty more FCI games on my rental list. Oh well, the show must go on. The plot's fairly standard. You're trying to retrieve 3 jewels to reseal a demon that got loose, and then turn Princess Anne into 3 fairies. You play a knight named Jim. A very, very heroic name. There's one line in the story that I just don't buy. They say in the story, he bravely made his way in the wilderness with a full suit of armor to fight the monsters. Full suit? What the? Somebody should tell that to the slimes, who can just kind of like wipe the floor with Jim in seconds. Luckily, our good friend Starfighter 76 has got us covered with the maps. But more than that, he actually created a full text guide. And through this research, I learned that Starfighter 76 is actually Mike Leatherwood, the masked fighter's altered ego. To me, he's the true avenger of these cryptic, forgotten games. With the maps in hand and the guide ready to go, it was time to dive back in. Following the guide, the first order of business was grinding to level 3. It's tedious, it's dangerous, and the enemies can almost kill you instantly, even after you've leveled up several times. To make matters worse, there's like no level indicator, so you just have to kind of keep track in your head like, okay, I think I'm on level 3. But once you turn to level 3, the slimes and the goblins stop giving you experience. They just... you're done. They'll still kill you, though, so the danger remains. I did learn that the grass areas heal you if you stand there, but you have to be careful because the slimes can go right through rocks and things. My first item to get was the cross. It's used to take out the vampire, which then rewards you with a lamp. The instant enemy respawns make this kind of tricky, though, because though it forces the enemies to kind of reshuffle to a random start location, they still kind of constantly respawn. Now with the lamp, I could finally see what's going on in the caves. This led me to a sword, which gave me a nice strength boost. Then the pot. For some reason, the pot opens a hole in the ground containing a maze full of chests. Most of them are empty, but one holds a key. So looking back at my blind run, I was wondering how to open the chest in the graveyard. Well, there's the key. So, turns out when you get that, you can get a jewel. At this point, I felt like I was making real progress than I ever got as a kid. The 15-minute song loop starts to kind of wear on you, but I was on a roll, so I just started tuning it out. Then the guides said it was time to grind again. This time, you were fighting zombies. This part's so tedious, though. It was just a cycle: kill zombies, save, heal, repeat. The silver lining was the fact that you can start kind of learning how to use the magic by selecting with the B and then casting with A and B. It's kind of awkward and it's easy to miss, but at least you have something and it works. At level 6, though, I headed to the cave where fighting a knight landed me a shield, and the hidden chest also gave me a ring that makes you heal faster. It's marginally heal faster, and the shield, a little bit more defense. But I popped out of the cave and found myself in a desert. And that's when I remembered I was supposed to be collecting fairies to save the princess, so I had to backtrack to the forest full of wasps to search the trees and get the wasps start swarming you. Got hit by those a few times. But once you find the right tree, the fairy then comes out, and now it's just a trick to get the second fairy. So I went back to the desert, and then I sprinted across it, because the desert's kind of a pain, trying to dodge like sandworms. Then you reach a set of moving trees. The guide says you gotta search them, which requires attacking, but attacking lowers your defense basically to 0, and this causes like a bunch of deaths. So once again, the grind's on. I need to reach level 8, so after level 6, the slimes and the goblins turn into hypers, which are like harder versions that constantly snipe you from behind. Okay, at this point, this is when I finally realized that in order to avoid getting hit, you have to attack all the enemies kind of from the back or from the side. If you bump them while they're facing you, they're gonna just chew you right up. But even with that strategy, it's really a kill, then save, then heal loop constantly for several, several minutes, let's say. quite a bit of time. I jumped in a hole by a castle outside the dunes and then found myself swimming in a river. I was just trying to avoid everything until I reached an island, and on that island, old Starfighter 76 noted that there's 2 wizards, and you have a wave spell. Luckily I had the spell, but for some reason when I used it kept fizzling out. And this is the catch. You have to kill both wizards at the same time, and you can only shoot horizontally. So you have to line them up perfectly. If you shoot vertical, that's when it fizzles out. After a few attempts, I finally managed to grab the 3rd fairy. Once you have all the fairies, then they kind of whisk you away to the final island. There's a dragon on guard, and he's invincible. But I didn't need to kill him yet. Instead, I just had to burn a tree, kind of a little Zelda style. And then it revealed a hole, so inside it's crawling with like black knights and skeletons. I made a break for it and then ran to a grave. Once you destroy the grave, it drains the lake. But we're not done yet. Time for another grind to level 9. Luckily, there's like hordes of skeletons that are just constantly respawning, so makes that kind of easy. With the final level achieved, I headed back to the dragon. This time, I could fight it, but the recommendation is just to stay in defense mode, and you just kind of run into it. Do that a few times, and in between, yeah, it's pretty simple. Fighting the dragon gives you the medicine, which is much needed. But before the final showdown, I had to collect a ruby from the drain mode. When I picked it up, the text said it was called a luby. Well, I thought, oh well, close enough. With my luby in hand, I went back down to the skeletons for the final boss, the demon Varus. The strategy here is to just flash the screen and clear the enemies for a few seconds, then use the defense until your life's near 0. Then heal with the medicine, and hope you can finish it off with a final defense attack. It took a few times, and it's definitely a pure crapshoot, because every time I tried it, it was just die. But then one magic moment, and it was all over in a flash. The battle's incredibly quick. Either you make it, or you die. Well, the princess returns, and congratulations. Finally over. Well, that's certainly an interesting one. Looking back, I asked myself, should I have held on to this game like it was some major award? Like the leg lamp. Honestly, I doubt I would have made it past the first screen without a guide. And I would have been endlessly frustrated by that battle mechanics. I didn't really understand the save load feature, as it was novel, but it's absolutely critical if you want to make any progress in this game. Plus, as you go deeper, some puzzles are solvable, but others are so cryptic it would probably just take sheer dumb luck, like those wizards. Just luck shot. I was in middle school when this game came out, and I don't remember anybody talking about it. It was just like a total void. However, it seems to make the rounds on YouTube periodically. Some people are just curious, and other people clearly want to experience the bad. Am I glad I finally completed it? Yes, I think so. I can finally lay it to rest, knowing exactly how it all plays out. There are a few glimmers of fun in the accomplishments, but they get kind of buried underneath some truly gnarly design decisions. Yeah, closing the loop feels good. With that taken care of, it's time to boot up some Tiger Heli.